A single sideline moment has the entire NFL talking, and it didn't come from a touchdown or a highlight reel. It came from Jalen Ramsey pointing across the field, straight at Cleveland Browns head coach Kevin Stefanski. Then, just seconds later, Ramsey turned his finger toward Shedeur Sanders, and that's when the internet lost its mind. The clip spread like wildfire, and everyone had the same question. What was Ramsey trying to say? Was he taunting Stefanski or calling him out? Because when you look closely, it almost seems like Ramsey was telling the Browns head coach, put your best player in the game. And if you know the backstory, that moment might have meant a lot more than just trash talk. See, Jalen Ramsey isn't just another NFL star. He's one of the fiercest competitors in the league, and someone who's been mentored personally by none other than Deion Primetime Sanders. Yeah, that Deion Sanders, the same man who just happens to be Shedeur's son. A single sideline moment has the entire NFL talking, and it didn't come from a touchdown or a highlight reel. It came from Jalen Ramsey pointing across the field, straight at Cleveland Browns head coach Kevin Stefanski. Then, just seconds later, Ramsey turned his finger toward Shedeur Sanders, and that's when the internet lost its mind. The clip spread like wildfire, and everyone had the same question. What was Ramsey trying to say? Was he taunting Stefanski or calling him out? Because when you look closely, it almost seems like Ramsey was telling the Browns head coach, put your best player in the game. And if you know the backstory, that moment might have meant a lot more than just trash talk. See, Jalen Ramsey isn't just another NFL star. He's one of the fiercest competitors in the league, and someone who's been mentored personally by none other than Deion Primetime Sanders. Yeah, that Deion Sanders, the same man who just happens to be Shedeur's partner. The video didn't come from a news outlet or a locker room interview. It came from a shaky sideline camera during the Browns-Steelers matchup. In it, Jalen Ramsey stares across the field, locks eyes with Kevin Stefanski, and points straight at him. Then he points again, this time toward the bench where Shedeur Sanders stood in his warm-ups. Within seconds, that tiny gesture turned into one of the most replayed clips of the week. Fans on X, Instagram, and TikTok froze the frame, zoomed in, and started arguing over what was really said. Some swore they could read Ramsey's lips saying, put your best player in the game. Others thought it was pure trolling. But what made the clip explode wasn't just the gesture, it was the context. Ramsey had just sacked Dillon Gabriel twice in a row. He was dominating the Browns' offense, and right after the third sack, he sent that message. It felt personal, like a statement, not a bullshit celebration. The crowd noise didn't hide the emotion on Ramsey's face. It was frustration mixed with confidence, almost like he was saying, you see what's happening? Give the kid his shot. As soon as the footage hit the internet, Cleveland fans lit up comment sections with "Start Shedeur" chants. Analysts called it disrespectful. Others called it honesty. Whatever side you're on, one thing's clear. That short clip hit harder than any tackle on the field. But to understand why Ramsey even cared that much, you've got to know where his loyalty comes from. And it starts with one name: Deion Sanders. To understand why Jalen Ramsey even bothered pointing at Kevin Stefanski, you've got to understand his roots, and everything leads back to one man, Deion Primetime Sanders. For years, Ramsey has been open about how much Deion influenced his mindset. He said it in interviews, podcasts, even post-game talks. Primetime didn't just teach him how to play cornerback, he taught him how to think like a legend. When Ramsey was coming up, he studied Deion's every move, the swagger, the discipline, the confidence that borders on arrogance. And Deion, he noticed. The two built a relationship that went from mentorship to genuine brotherhood. So when you realize Shedeur Sanders is Deion's son, that viral moment starts to hit differently. Ramsey wasn't just standing up for a random rookie QB. He was standing up for someone connected to the man who shaped his entire career. And knowing Ramsey's personality, that loyalty runs deep. NFL insiders have said Ramsey keeps in regular contact with Deion even now. They talk football, mentality, and life. So if Ramsay sees Shedeur not getting the opportunity he deserves, you can bet he's going to make his opinion known, even if that means calling out another team's head coach on live TV. What might have looked like trash talk could have actually been something else entirely. Message from one of Deion's disciples to the NFL: respect the legacy. But that's just one side of the story, because behind that loyalty lies a much bigger issue inside Cleveland, one that's been brewing since the season kicked off. Let's be real. Cleveland's quarterback situation has been a ticking time bomb from the start of the season. Fans have been divided, analysts have been debating, and Kevin Stefanski's decisions have only made things worse. The controversy centers around one question everyone's been asking: why isn't Shedeur Sanders starting? Stefanski's been rolling with Dillon Gabriel, the safe option, a solid, experienced QB who can manage a game but rarely electrifies it. And while Gabriel's fine on paper, Browns fans aren't exactly excited to watch fine. Week after week, the offense has looked flat, uninspired, and predictable. Meanwhile, Shedeur, young, confident, and carrying the same aura as his father, has been sitting on the sidelines, waiting for his chance. The tension hit a breaking point after multiple rough performances. Fans started chanting online, "We want Shedeur." Local talk shows debated whether Stefanski was protecting Gabriel or protecting his own reputation. Because let's be honest, if Shedeur came in and started lighting it up, it'd raise a bigger question. Why wasn't he in sooner? That's why when Jalen Ramsey pointed toward Shedeur, it felt like he was saying what the entire city had been thinking. That one gesture said, "This kid deserves a shot." And whether you agree or not, it's hard to deny how perfectly timed it was. Right after Gabriel got sacked again, Cleveland fans didn't just see a player getting tackled. They saw a message being sent. And that message only turned the pressure up on Kevin Stefanski, who's now caught in the middle of a fan base ready to explode. But Ramsey wasn't done making noise, because his performance that night made his point even louder. Jalen Ramsey didn't just talk that night, he backed it up. From the opening snap, he looked locked in, reading the offense like he'd memorized Cleveland's playbook. Dillon Gabriel barely had time to breathe before Ramsey was in his face again and again. By the end of the night, Ramsey had sacked him 3 times, and every single one seemed to carry a message. The crowd could feel it too. After the second sack, cameras caught Ramsey smirking, looking straight toward the Browns' sideline. Then came the third, the one that went viral. Ramsey made the play, stood tall, and pointed across the field, once at Kevin Stefanski, then again toward Shedeur Sanders. It was quick, silent, but powerful enough to break the internet. To some, it was just elite-level trash talk, classic Ramsey energy. But to others, it felt like something deeper, frustration with what he was seeing. Ramsey's body language said it all. He wasn't mocking, he was challenging. It was like he was saying, "You see what your QB just did? Now give the real one his shot." Even commentators on postgame shows couldn't ignore it. One analyst said, "Ramsey's message wasn't subtle. That was a statement on the Browns' coaching, not the play." And fans agreed. The clip hit millions of views within hours, sparking headlines, memes, and endless debate about what Ramsey really meant. But one thing was undeniable. Ramsey dominated on the field, and his message hit harder than any tackle he made. And while the internet kept replaying that clip, Cleveland's frustrations were only getting louder, especially toward their head coach. The moment that clip hit social media, Cleveland fans erupted. Within hours, the comment sections were flooded with frustration, not at Ramsey, but at their own head coach. "Even Ramsey knows who should be starting," one fan wrote. Another said, "When the opposing team is begging for Shedeur, that tells you everything." For a fan base that spent years watching inconsistency at quarterback, this was the breaking point. The crowd that once defended Kevin Stefanski started turning against him fast. The same people who called him a steady leader were now calling him blind, stubborn, and out of touch. It wasn't just about Dillon Gabriel's performance anymore. It was about the message Stefanski was sending by refusing to give Shedeur his shot. Sports talk shows picked it up instantly. Debates exploded across ESPN and Twitter Spaces. Was Stefanski too loyal or too scared to make the switch? Because if Shedeur went in and delivered, it wouldn't just make him a star, it would expose the coach's hesitation. Even opposing fans joined the conversation. Man, the Browns are sitting on gold and don't even know it. One Steelers fan commented, "It wasn't just about football anymore. It became a statement about opportunity, about whether coaches trust new talent or cling to what feels safe." By the time the week ended, Cleveland fans weren't asking politely anymore. They were demanding change. "We want Shedeur" chants were already being planned for the next home game. And while the fan base made their voice clear, they weren't the only ones silently supporting Shedeur. Because behind the scenes, more players were starting to show where their loyalty really stood. What fans didn't realize right away is that Jalen Ramsey wasn't alone in this message. Behind the scenes, several players, both inside and outside the Browns' locker room, were quietly showing support for Shedeur Sanders. You just had to know where to look. Eagle-eyed fans started noticing subtle signs. Likes on social media posts, cryptic tweets, and quiet nods from some of the league's biggest names. Even Cleveland's own veterans, guys like Myles Garrett and Jerry Jeudy, had reportedly voiced their respect for Shedeur's work ethic and leadership in private. Nothing public, nothing flashy, but enough to make people wonder what was happening behind closed doors. It's not hard to understand why. Shedeur carries himself like someone who's been around greatness his whole life. Because he has. He's confident but composed, flashy but focused. Teammates see that. And according to insiders, some of them believe he's already the most talented quarterback on the roster. He just hasn't been given the keys yet. So when Ramsey pointed at Stefanski and then at Shedeur, it wasn't just a random outburst. It felt like a statement from the player community itself. Like the NFL's way of saying, "We see who's ready." Rumors have even suggested that certain Browns players have been pushing privately for Shedeur to get more reps in practice. And if that's true, the pressure on Stefanski is only getting heavier. Because once your locker room starts leaning toward the rookie, it's only a matter of time before the fans and the field follow. But Stefanski isn't one to back down quietly. And his response to all this only made things more tense. When the video of Jalen Ramsey went viral, most expected Kevin Stefanski to respond with frustration, maybe even anger. But instead, he played it cool. In a post-game interview, Stefanski brushed off the entire situation, saying he was focused on his team and that outside noise doesn't affect what we do. It was classic coach speak. Calm, professional, and completely detached. But for Browns fans, that answer said everything they needed to hear. To them, it wasn't confidence, it was denial. Because no matter how much Stefanski tried to downplay the moment, the evidence was right there on the field. Dillon Gabriel was struggling, the offense looked lifeless, and Shedeur Sanders was still standing on the sidelines, helmet in hand, waiting for a chance that never came. Stefanski doubled down later in the week, telling reporters that Gabriel would benefit from the home crowd and feel more comfortable in upcoming games. But that comment only made things worse. Fans heard it as more excuses, more protection for a quarterback who wasn't delivering. Even national analysts started questioning Stefanski's approach. "You can't ignore the locker room forever," one reporter said on ESPN. "When players start speaking through body language, like Ramsey did, it means something." The buzz grew louder, the criticism sharper, and the patience thinner. Everyone could sense it. The next home game might be the boiling point. Because if Gabriel struggles again, and that crowd starts chanting, "We want Shedeur," Kevin Stefanski won't be able to ignore it anymore. And when that moment comes, it won't just be a coaching decision. It'll be a turning point for the entire franchise. At first glance, that viral clip might have looked like just another sideline moment. an emotional player getting caught up in the heat of the game. But when you zoom out and really look at what happened, it starts to feel bigger. Because what Jalen Ramsey did wasn't just about one quarterback, one team, or one play. It was about what's happening across the entire NFL. This league has always been about competition, proving who deserves the spotlight. But every so often, someone comes along who challenges the system. Someone like Shedeur Sanders, a player who carries not just his father's name, but the pressure of living up to a legacy that changed football forever. And when guys like Ramsey, stars in their own right, go out of their way to speak up for him, it tells you something. It tells you that players see what fans see. Ramsey's gesture wasn't scripted. It wasn't for clout. It was raw emotion. A player saying out loud what many around the league might already believe, that Shedeur Sanders is ready and that Kevin Stefanski might be the only one who doesn't realize it yet. Now Cleveland stands at a crossroads. The fans are restless. The locker room energy feels uneasy, and every camera will be locked on that sideline next game. Because if the Browns stumble early, the chants won't just be noise. There'll be a message. A message that says we're done waiting. And that's the power of one viral moment. It can flip a narrative, shift public pressure, and make even the most confident coach second-guess himself. Maybe Ramsey didn't mean to start a movement, or maybe he did. But one thing's for sure, when the opposing team starts demanding to see your backup, it's not just a football issue anymore. It's a wake-up call. So what do you think? Was Jalen Ramsey out of line, or just saying what everyone's been too afraid to admit? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because this story is far from over.